morning, Imagine Church. How are we doing today? I hope that the chat is working this morning. I missed hearing from you last week. So if it is, I invite and I encourage you to comment, to respond, to bust out your come-ons and your let's go. And if it's not working, just completely ignore this part of the greeting. But even on that note, thank you to Cam and to Wes, who are the people that have sacrificed and gifted us with their creative giftings of producing and putting together videos like this that we're able to receive. So if you also want to extend your gratitude to Cam and to Wes, that'd be wonderful, because we really appreciate you guys and know just how much work gets put into creating these. I believe that it's either week 2 or week 3, depending on where you're living, as far as what week you're into, lockdown, that is. How you guys doing? Imagine this. Kevin and I were both still working, so I'm seeing all my clients virtually, and Kevin is, still meeting with people via Zoom, sermon prepping and planning in the midst of raising 2 children. Our daughter's 3 and our son's 1, in a 800 square feet apartment where our common yard area has been shut down, so we can't even access that. And also we're now homeschooling parents because our daughter's school is now going virtual, and it's distance learning now, and so we are juggling it all. There have been some sweet moments that we're gonna hold on to, and then there's been some really stressful, overwhelming, crazy moments as well. We still love each other, and we even still like each other, and we hope the same way for you and your family as well. But it's some crazy, crazy times that we find ourselves in, and would you know that you're not alone in it? Would you know that your resilient spirit is not going to be broken by this, and that you are stronger and braver than you think?
Hands that created the heavens, find me now. Grace runs as deep as your scars. Pull me from the clay, set me on a rock. Call me by your name, made my heart whole again. Lift it up, please know it's all for your glory. I'm not staying, reasons to sing and to fear. Pull me from the clay, set me on a rock. Call me by your name, made my heart whole again. Here I stand, heart in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out, 'cause I was broken. You love my whole heart. Sin has no hold on me. Grace holds me now. And that grace holds the ground where the grave did. All my shame is left for dead in your my chains are now. 'Cause death has no hold on me. Your grace holds that ground. Your grace holds me now. 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 Here I stand, high in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Once I was broken, you let my whole heart through. Sin has no hold on me. Your grace holds me now. Healed and forgiven. Look where my chains are now. 'Cause death has no hold on me. Your grace holds that ground. Your grace holds me now. Your grace holds me now. Your grace holds me now. Your grace holds me now.
God, you're my last chance of the day.
I spend the night on my knees before you.
Put me on your salvation agenda.
Take notes on the trouble I'm in.
Take notes on the trouble I'm in.
Take notes on the trouble I'm in.
I've had my fill of trouble. I've camped on the edge of hell. I'm writing off as a lost cause.
One more statistic, a hopeless case.
One more statistic, a hopeless case.
One more statistic, a hopeless case.
Abandoned as already dead, one more body in a stack of corpses.
And not so much as a gravestone.
And not so much as a gravestone. I'm a black hole in oblivion.
You've dropped me into a bottomless pit.
Sunk me in a pitch black abyss.
I'm battered senseless by your rage.
Relentlessly pounded by your waves of anger.
You turned my friends against me, made me horrible to them.
I'm caught in a maze and can't find my way out.
Can't find my way out.
Can't find my way out.
Blinded by tears of pain and frustration.
Blinded by tears of pain and frustration.
My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me, so far from my cries of anguish?
So far from my cries of anguish.
My God, I cry out by day, but you do not answer. By night, but I find no rest.
Yet you are enthroned as the Holy One.
Yet you are enthroned as the Holy One. You are the one Israel praises.
In you our ancestors put their trust.
They trusted, and you delivered them.
They trusted, and you delivered them.
To you they cried out and were saved.
In you they trusted and were not put to shame.
In you they trusted, and were not put to shame.
Hear my prayer, Lord. Listen to my cry for help.
Hear my prayer, O Lord. Listen to my cry for help.
Do not be deaf to my weeping. I dwell with you as a foreigner, a stranger, as all my ancestors were.
Look away from me that I may enjoy life again.
Look away from me that I may enjoy life again before I depart and am no more.
Psalm 39, 12-13.
Take the bread of life, broken for all my sins. Your body crucified to make me whole again. sacrifice to trade the sinner's end for your new covenant. Hallelujah, I'll live my life in remembrance. Hallelujah, your promise I won't forget. I'll walk salvation's road with fear and trembling. Your way born as my own, as Christ has formed in me. Hallelujah, I'll live my life in remembrance. Hallelujah, your promise I won't forget. You've been so, so good to me. You've been so, so good to me. Oh, to think where I would be if not for you, if not for you. You've been so, so good to me. You've been so, so good to me. Oh, to think where I would be if not for you, if not for you. You've been so, so good to me. You've been so, so good to me. Oh, to think where I would be if not for you, if not for you. Hallelujah, 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 I'll live in remembrance. Oh, you've been so good, God.
My Lord God,
My Lord God, I have no idea where I'm going.
I do not see the road ahead of me. I cannot know for certain where it will end, nor do I really know myself.
Nor do I really know myself. And the fact that I am following your will does not mean that I'm actually doing so.
But I believe that the desire to please you does in fact please you.
But I believe that the desire to please you does in fact please you. And I hope that I have that desire in all that I am doing. I hope that I'll never do anything apart from that desire.
And I hope that if I do this, you will lead me by the right road.
Though I may know nothing about it. Therefore, I will trust you always.
Therefore, I will trust you always. Though I may seem to be lost and in the shadow of death,
I will not fear, for you are ever with me.
for you are ever with me,
And you will never leave me to face my struggles alone.
and you will never leave me to face my struggles alone.
God, we are barely moving right now, and yet we still feel so frantic.
We remain in our rooms almost all day, and yet sometimes feel less at home than ever.
We are living face to face with an invisible threat that has somehow become the only thing we see and the only thing we can talk about.
The only thing we see and the only thing we can talk about.
Sometimes we forget what it was like before all of this, and we also don't have the vision to see what it's like beyond this. Are we stuck?
Are we stuck?
Are we stuck?
Are we stuck?
Does the divine imagination truly possess the power to envision an abundant life after this weird and confusing moment is over?
Does your healing presence actually have the ability to heal all of the broken hearts that will be living into the future without loved ones who have been taken by this virus?
Is the divine provision and the abundance we try so hard to have faith in able to deal with the empty bank accounts, the closed businesses?
The empty bank accounts, the closed businesses.
The empty bank accounts, the closed businesses, and the broken dreams.
Is the divine provision and the abundance we try so hard to have faith in able to deal with the empty bank accounts, the closed businesses, the broken dreams, and the haunting struggle so many of us are staring into each day?
The God's not worthy. So why do I worry? God's not worthy. So why do I worry? So why do I worry? Why do I worry? Why do I worry? God knows what I need. Why do I worry? Why do I worry? Why do I worry? God knows what I need. So I'll give thanks to God when I don't have enough, 'cause He's more than enough, and He knows what I need. So I'll give thanks to God when I don't have enough, 'cause He's more than enough, and He knows what I need.
Oh man, I'm gonna say it again, and I'll probably say it every time we keep doing this. How good is it to hear from everybody, to see everybody, to hear the voices of everybody, to hear the music, and to be able to sing together even in this unique situation we find ourselves in. You know, every time Christine and I rewatch these on Sunday with everybody else, it just always brings tears to our eyes, because when you see people, when you hear from people, it's like something in you just leaps, and it just gives you hope, and it's so crazy how it still feels like Imagine, even though we're all watching from our own individual places. And we just want to keep doing this together and worshiping together and gathering together like this, because it just is so critical for us opening up to the Spirit of God and still feeling that deep sense of connection with each other. So to all of you who sent videos in and read and prayed and sang, we are truly so grateful for you, and we're so thankful for the time that you spend to bring all of that in. It blesses so many people. Now, before we jump in to just a little bit of teaching this week, I wanted to fill you in on how the dinners at the shelters went last Monday. So Imagine partnered with Earl Sandwiches right across the street from Bevy and Taco Waka, which is owned by Christian and the people who run Bevy. So when the shelters reached out to us and asked us to provide a dinner, we thought, why don't we get some of our friends who own the restaurants, who run these small businesses, to cater that, so that way not only can we provide a great meal for people in the shelters, but we also have the chance to financially bless and support some of our favorite people in the community, some of our favorite small businesses and restaurants that are all facing challenging times right now. So for all of you who gave financially to that, we're so grateful. And Justin and Earl and Christian at Bevy were so stoked to be able to be a part of that, and they were so moved. And so you can see a couple of the pictures right here. Special shout out and thank you to Jen Geron and to Jessica for helping put all of this together. You know, for showing up, for delivering, for taking those courageous risks to be able to extend the compassion of Christ towards some of the most vulnerable in our neighborhood. Man, you guys truly are heroes, and we're so grateful for you. And for so many other people who reached out to be on these compassion teams, we just want to say, one, when these opportunities come up, the best way to give right now to this directly is financially, because there's so many limitations and restrictions and guidelines on how we can go about doing this and serving people well right now. You know, I wish I could bring all of you in and form these big teams and have that camaraderie and do this important work together. But the best safest and most responsible and loving way for us to do this is to have a very small team picking up and delivering and dropping off. So for compassion, if you want to support and keep giving, there is another opportunity we are going to have a week from today, which is Easter Sunday. Easter is in a week. I can't even believe that. And so the shelter just reached out to us to provide lunch for both of the shelters. They run next Sunday. So probably Monday or Tuesday, pay attention within the next couple of days, you will see our next partnerships with 1 or 2 restaurants and how these other restaurants that we all know and love are going to help support these shelters and how we're going to support them. So for those of you who give, for those of you who want to show your love in tangible ways, please keep your eyes and your hearts open for the next couple of days, because you will see the next opportunity we have as a church to love and support the people around us. And we invite you all and we call you all to give even during this challenging time, because the church always has this amazing opportunity to shine. So be on the lookout for that. Also, Easter, we'll be gathering together like this. And also for Good Friday, we will also be gathering together similar like this for worship. So we'll be putting out a special video and sort of journey of the Stations of the Cross for Good Friday. So Good Friday at 7 p.m. we'll be premiering another video, and it'll be similar to all of our Good Friday experiences in the past, where we journey through the Stations of the Cross and the suffering of Christ. And we'll do so through the personal stories of people in our church who are also facing suffering and uncertainty right now. So Friday night, Good Friday, 7 p.m., we'll be premiering our video to be able to worship and do that together. Sunday is Easter, and we'll figure out something special for that, and be on the lookout for giving to be able to bless. Like, what better way to celebrate Easter and the announcement that God in Christ has not given up on this world and is healing and reconciling and restoring this world? What better way to announce that than through creating and giving to a great lunch for some of the most vulnerable people in the shelters around us? So, with that said, let's get into the teaching right now. Today, we are talking about Psalms of Lament. We're not only talking about Psalms of Lament and what they are, but we're discussing why they are so essential to all of us and where we are right now. And these are so important because right now we all have to ask ourselves this: where am I exactly right now with this experience? Right? Where are you right now? And of course, one of the best ways to start this off and to help us get into this space together is by looking at some very important memes that kind of show us where we started quarantine, say 3 weeks ago. We might be in a very different place than we are right now. So here's the first one: March 1st versus March 31st. See, some of you are in that Britney stage where you go from like normal to like crazy on the edge, kind of fun before the breakdown, basically. March 1st to March 31st, where are you right now? Here's the next one: Calvin and Hobbes, March 1st, and here's what they look like March 31st. From sweet, innocent cartoons into the sort of infamous talk of the town, and of course by town I mean the internet and social media right now. Here's the third one: where are you right now? March 1st or March 31st? Does that communicate to any of you how you're feeling right now? Because I will say this: say a special prayer for parents. This is exactly how I feel at 8 p.m. every single night when the kids are finally down, right? Where are we right now in this experience? And I have one more up there: March 1st versus March 31st. from a happy SpongeBob to an actual sponge that is being used and wrung out. I mean, our sponge right now, I really think is so dirty. I'm like, babe, I don't think this is making our plates cleaner. I feel like it's like making them worse right now. And if you're wondering where I'm at right now, I put on a shirt before this and I saw a stain on the back. And after I saw the stain on the back, I'm like, yeah, the stain's on the back, which means I can wear it because no one ever sees the back. So that kind of communicates where I am right now. But I want to start by reading a couple of the sections of the Psalms of Lament that you already heard read by some of the people in the opening liturgy. So Psalm 22, 1 through 2 says, my God, why have you forsaken me? Which is actually the psalm that Jesus reads from the cross when he's being crucified. Jesus is calling back to this psalm. Why are you so far from saving me, so far from my cries of anguish? My God, I cry out by day, but you do not answer. By night, but I find no rest. In another section in Psalm 88 that you heard read, I've had my fill of trouble. I'm camped on the edge of hell. I'm written off as a lost cause. One more statistic, a hopeless case. Some of you were like, were you in my head on Thursday afternoon? But he goes on, abandoned as already dead, one more body in a stack of corpses, and not so much as a gravestone. I'm a black hole in oblivion. Now these Psalms of Lament are written during a time of exile. That means this is a time where the Israelites had just lost everything. They lost their homes. They lost their routines. They lost the familiar sights, the familiar touch, the familiar smells, the familiar day-to-day experiences that they had. All the things they took for granted have now been taken from them. They were at a point where their lives were turned completely upside down. Does any of that feel familiar to you? So the Psalms of Lament, what you hear coming from this situation, this is what happens when people let their anger and confusion and rage and struggle and pain and sadness and frustration all be harnessed into one poetic and powerful moment of speech. See, when this happens, the point is not to be able to explain. The point is for people to be able to lament. See, lament is what happens when there is no answer. Lament is what happens when there is no explanation. When there's no way to explain all of the hurt away, and yet you still have all of this stuff inside that needs to come up and be heard and be received. See, as Christians, we are not called in these moments to have all the answers, but we are invited to lament. Which is why I would wrap up this first section by saying this. Lament is about expressing the pain when there's no way to explain the problem. Lament is about expressing the pain when there's no way to explain the problem of what is happening around us. Now, there's a story about this family that was sort of, middle class. You don't really expect, or they probably haven't seen a bunch of tragedy up until this point in their lives. And then totally unexpectedly, the 17-year-old son of this family commits suicide. Just devastates the whole family. And when that happens, the boy is rushed to the hospital and they have him on life support where he's still barely breathing with no chance of ever surviving. And so when everybody's standing around, this boy's 11-year-old cousin, this little girl, comes into the room, and when she first hears about what happens, and when she first sees her older cousin, who was like her hero, she comes in and she immediately says boldly to everybody in the room, everybody get out of this room right now. I want to be alone with my cousin. And everybody thinks like, what? Okay. So everybody leaves the room, and the moment the doors are closed, this young girl gets in the face of her cousin and starts to scream at the top of her lungs, how could you? How could you do this? I'm so angry at you. You're such an idiot. Why would you do this? You're so selfish. How could you do this? I'm so angry. How could you do this? And she keeps going on and on and on. See, in that moment, this little girl said everything that everybody there was thinking and feeling and wrestling with in the moment, but did not have the courage to say, did not feel the permission to say, or felt like they were supposed to be polite, or felt guilty for saying the things they were really thinking and feeling. See, she said what she really felt. And by her saying that, it was like all of a sudden her saying how she felt allowed everybody else there to feel and be honest about what they were thinking and feeling. See, laments are the refusal to be silent before God in the face of suffering. Lament is when someone has the courage to actually say the thing. When other people are being polite, when others are waiting for permission to be real, when others are still censoring themselves, when others are ignoring the problem, the Psalm of Lament is saying the actual thing. This whole thing right now is completely... Wait, what's up, babe? No, I'm good. Thanks. Yeah, love you. Okay, what was I about to say? Oh yeah, lament is the freedom to let everything come up as raw and as honestly as possible. See, these Psalms of Lament show us what fidelity and faithfulness and worship look like during times of crisis. That's why we are so in need of this art of learning how to lament right now. Now I want to go back to one section from Psalm 88. I mean, these things just really show us what the art of lament looks like. So after the rage, after everything's coming up, after the psalmist is talking about, I'm in oblivion, I'm in a black hole, and you've battered me, and all of this anger and rage towards God and towards the world and frustration comes up, the psalmist also says this. Psalm 88, right at the beginning. God, you're my last chance of the day. I spend the night on my knees before you. Put me on your salvation agenda. Take notes of the trouble I'm in. So the Psalms teach us how to pray during times of crisis and suffering. See, without real lament, we don't have a faith. We don't have a Jesus that can actually handle the complexity and the pain and the suffering of real life tragedies and crises like we're facing right now. See, these Psalms show us that they're special. Okay, let me get back to this. These Psalms show us we don't have to pretend it's all working when it's not. They show us that there's a way to worship without pretense and without offering shallow gestures to God that cover up where we really are. See, these Psalms of Lament show us we don't have to wear those fake Christian smiles that so many people put on the surface when deep down what they really need is to let the anger and rage and pain of lament come to the surface and be expressed. See, we have to fight with God, we have to wrestle with God, we have to wrestle with the suffering of the world, and we have to dare to express that shocking authenticity when we no longer can keep pretending. And even further, let's take it further now. Psalms of lament aren't just about letting it all out. It's a part of it. But the Psalms of Lament are not just these people being honest. It's about people being honest and letting their anger and rage come to the surface and then beginning the process of handing it over to God. That's why I would say this. Venting and lamenting are not the same thing. Venting and lamenting are not the same thing. See, venting is expressing frustration without really opening your heart. Venting is us saying what we're mad about, but not truly owning the deep feelings we have about the situation. Venting is letting out some frustration, but then not really doing anything with it, which means it finally just comes back and stays with us and nothing really changes. But lamenting is letting everything in you come to the surface through speech and keeping your heart open in the process. Lamenting is risking feeling what you truly feel. Lamenting is allowing these deep primal screams during moments like this to come to the surface and daring to entrust all of it to God. This is why the great theologian Walter Brueggemann said that the laments show us that 1, you voice the rage, 2, you submit it to God, and then 3, you eventually must relinquish it and allow the infinite love of God to absorb it. That's why I would wrap this up by saying this. Lamenting is about expressing everything from within and then entrusting everything to God. Now, there's this really funny story about 2 siblings fighting. You know when siblings fight, you ever had that experience where, like, as you're growing up, you get into a huge fight with your brother or sister, and in that moment, you are so resolute when it happens, where you're like, you're so angry. You always come to that conclusion of, I hate my brother, I hate my sister, and I'm never, ever going to play with them again. How many of you have ever been in that place with your siblings? How many times have you swore you would never play with your sibling again? And you know, one thing I do know about that is we never mean it when we say that, do we? Do you know why I know we never mean it when we say that? Because something happens and I hate my brother, I hate my sister, I'm never ever gonna play with them again. And then every time 2 hours later, it's like we go back to the same sibling and we're like, so, do you want to play Street Fighter on Super Nintendo? It could be pretty sweet. Okay, shit, cool, let's go. Like, we always say we're not going to play with them, and we always go back. It's kind of something that always happens when we fight with our siblings like that. So there's a story about these 2 boys who were playing in their backyard, and the younger brother started like getting the best of the brother while they were playing basketball. So, you know, the tension's building, they're playing, they're talking smack to each other, they're kind of arguing the whole time. It's getting increasingly like more and more physical. You ever been in those moments? I remember one time 2 of my best friends who were twins when I was growing up, and they just had legendary fights with each other. We were playing, it was like Super Nintendo maybe at the time. We're playing Super Nintendo, and it was like their fighting kept escalating until at one point the brother who was losing just turns to the other one and smashes my Super Nintendo remote over his head, and then they start fighting. And what was funny was as they started wrestling and fighting in my room, my first instinct wasn't to break them up. My first instinct was my remote! And then eventually I went back to them. So these two brothers are in the backyard fighting, playing basketball. It eventually escalates where right when the younger brother's about to win, he kind of goes up for a layup and extends himself. And the older brother, right when he goes up, just gives him one shot right to the ribs. And he just crumples his little brother because he's a lot stronger. Just crumples him with one shot. Little boy hits the ground, starts crying. Older brother runs to avoid the situation. The mom in the house hears the younger brother outside crying and comes out. Now, you know how those moments happen when you're crying and like basically hyperventilating, and then a parent comes out to check on you and you can barely get anything to the surface? So little boy's just like, oh, he did, Patrick, he did, he hit me, he hurt, I hate him so much. And so the mom is like trying to listen to him and to decipher everything. And finally, as he calms down, he starts going off on that rant that really expresses where he at, saying, I hate him so much. I'm never gonna play with him again. He did this to me just because I was winning. He never lets me win. He always has to cheat. He punched me in the ribs and it hurts so bad. He's such a little, and he starts crying again. And so as the little boy is telling his mother, I hate him. I seriously just want to kill him right now. Do not let me around him. I never want to see him again. See, here's the thing about the parent in that moment. The wise parent does not say to the kid, you shouldn't say that. You can't feel that right now. You cannot say that or feel that or think that about your brother. No, the wise parent doesn't say that because the kid has been hurt. And out of that hurt, he is expressing how hurt he is, and right now, how badly he wants to hurt his brother. The wise parent doesn't censor what he's saying and say it's not appropriate, but the wise parent says to the kid, I hear you. I know that was unfair. I know it bothers you. I know right now it feels like you hate him. I know right now you never want to play with him again. I know, sweetie, I hear you, and I know, and it's okay. But the wise parent doesn't stop there just with listening. The wise and loving parent also says, okay, now that I've heard you and I've received all of that, why don't you leave that all to me and entrust me with it? I hear everything you said. I get it. I'm with you. I know. But at the same time, why don't you entrust me with all of this? And trust that I have you. Trust me with your anger. Trust me with all of that, because I know what to do with this. The wise parent takes it all in and just says, not don't feel it, but trust me with all of that, because in the end, I will be able to make all of these things right. See, because lamenting is about expressing everything within and then entrusting it and submitting it to God. Just like that kid that got hurt, we all right now have to just let it all come up. And then, and only then when we do that, can we begin the process of handing that over to God. Because here's the thing. Where are you right now with all of this? What are you feeling? What points do you feel stuck? Where do you feel hopeless? When does the anger still come up? Is there some of that rage within you? Is there the fear of uncertainty? Is there the disbelief of where we are? Is there the fighting, embracing the situation we're in because we still think we can force going back to the old? Where are you right now? That's the first question for us to even begin lamenting. Because here's the thing. We don't know exactly where all of this is going right now. We don't know what's going to happen to our jobs. We don't know what's going to happen to our paychecks. We don't know how we're going to pay rent. We don't know what's going to happen to our small business. We don't know what's going to happen to our family and friends who are also in these situations. We don't know what our bank accounts are going to look like. We don't know if we're going to have work when this is all over. See, we're still in this place where everything's changed so much, and we still don't know where it's all going. We're all staring directly into the face of uncertainty and going through this time of suffering and absorbing the suffering of those around us as well. And if we want a faith that can carry us through this time, if we want to come out of this changed, if we want to experience any peace while we're in this, then we have to learn how to lament and be honest and dare that authenticity in the presence of God. We need not only to be able to voice the rage and frustration and pain, but we need someone trustworthy to share it with and eventually hand it all off to, or it's going to stay on us and eventually the weight of it will crush us. See, lamenting does not lead to answers, but it can lead to acceptance. Lamenting may not give us the answers we're looking for, but it might be the very thing that leads us to acceptance right now. So as we prepare for Holy Week, as we prepare ourselves to sing some more songs right now, do you know exactly where you're at with this? Have you taken the space to let it all come up? Do you know what you're feeling? Do you know what you're scared of? Do you know what you're angry about? Do you know where you're at with all of this? Because the Psalms of Lament are the expression of us facing, feeling, and knowing and coming to terms with exactly and owning exactly where we are. Do you know where you're at with all of this? Because lamenting may not lead to answers, but it will be a critical step towards acceptance of where we are. So for this week, as we prepare for Holy Week, as we prepare for Good Friday, as we prepare for Easter, I mean, today's actually Palm Sunday. Usually I preach a totally different sermon, but Palm Sunday is when the people knew how desperate they were and how open they were for a Savior to come and save them and heal them. Maybe this week, in order to prepare your heart for the saving power of God in Christ, maybe you should take the time to write your own psalm of lament. How do you feel about God? How do you feel about the world? When there's no answers, we can lament. When there's no way to make sense of it, we can cry out. When the weight of it feels too much to carry, we can dare to let it all come up and start to hand it over to the God who says, I know, I get it. Why don't you entrust me with that? Because in the end, I will make things right out of this. Let's be people who lament our way towards acceptance and peace in God.
Imagine Church, I pray that we'll be mindful of the people that are in homes that doesn't actually feel like a home. And if that's you, I pray that you can find a home in this community.
Imagine, I pray that we remember that God is with us in all that we do.
I pray that we'll be mindful and aware of all the people that are directly and indirectly affected by this pandemic.
And that He is for us, even when times are tough.
We are all in this together, and I pray that we can still find a way to be connected and serve each other.
I pray that we find joy and happiness in life's most simplest moments. And God, I pray that you help us to confide in you and each other. Amen.
I pray that when we feel stuck, that we'll be bold enough to reach out and ask for help. And I pray that we will be brave to allow ourselves to be and feel loved. by this community.
Through waters uncharted, my soul will embark. I'll follow your voice straight into the dark. And if from the course you intend I depart, speak to the sails of my wandering heart. Like the wind, your guide, clear the skies before me, and I'll guide this open sea. Like the stars, your word will align my voyage and remind me where I've been and where I am going. Lost in the shallows amidst fear and fog, your truth is a compass that points me back north. Jesus, my captain, my soul's trusted Lord. All my allegiance is rightfully yours. Like the wind, your word, clear the skies before me, and I'll guide this open sea. Like the stars, your word will align my voyage and remind me where I've been and where I am going. Jesus, my captain, my soul's trusted Lord. All my allegiance is rightfully yours. The Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. The Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace.
Before we go, I wanted to take some time to say thank you and to acknowledge different groups of people who have displayed such courage during a time like this. First and foremost, to our medical professionals. I know that there are some in our church and some that are watching right now. Would you know that you are a hero and that we honor your bravery of being on the front lines during this global pandemic that we find ourselves in. Thank you so much for your service and for everything that you're doing at the hospitals. And for our service workers, to the men and women who find themselves in uniform, working at the bank or the grocery stores, keeping places clean to sustain our safety and our health. Anybody who's still working out there in the community, would you know that you are also our heroes on the front lines, and we acknowledge and we honor your bravery and your sacrifice and commitment to the people. And for teachers and educators, you find yourselves in a new learning adventure through the digital and virtual age like never before. Thank you so much for your commitment to our children, to the students, instilling knowledge and fostering their love and their curiosity for learning. To parents who find themselves exhausted and overwhelmed with constant laundry to clean or to put away, or dishes or cooking, the list goes on, right? Would you know that your commitment to your home and to your family during a time like this, especially when the outside world feels so uncertain and unsafe, would you know that your love is honored and is a gift? I pray for everyone who's been affected by this, those who are experiencing a deep sense of fear and uncertainty with their financial situation, their job situation. I pray that you would experience God as your provider and as your comforter in times like this. I pray for marriages, that you would be stronger as a team more than ever in a time like this. I pray for everyone who's experiencing loneliness and apathy, depression, or anxiety, that you would experience peace from God that goes beyond understanding. The world is experiencing crisis. It's experiencing trauma. And I pray, church, that you know that we're going to get through this, and that we're going to get through this together.
So imagine, church.
May the Lord bless you and keep you.
May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his face towards you. Yes! And the community of Imagine says, Amen.
We love you. We miss you.